Masamune was a socially awkward fatty who got brutally rejected by his crush for being ugly. To get revenge, he transforms into a GIGACHAD to rizz her up and dump her, but he actually starts falling in love instead. The story begins 8 years ago, when little Masamune looked like a deformed bowling ball and was being bullied by 3 delinquents, until one day, when a little girl named Aki saved his life, causing him to fall in love with her. Weeks after the incident, Masamune bravely went to little Aki's house at night to confess his feelings for her, but she brutally rejected him, calling him pig's foot because he was ugly. Fueled by a silent rage, Masamune became a closeted gym bro who did nothing but pump iron and looks max to achieve the perfect body. Years later, when he finally becomes the ultimate Ohio GIGACHAD Rizzler, he moves to the city and transfers to a new school. While he's headed there one morning, he notices all the girls around him gawking and fawning over his hot body, and walks extra slowly just to farm more aura. As he reaches the school's entrance, confident he can pull every girl he sees, he suddenly notices a crowd gathered around a hot blonde guy trying to rizz up a girl known as the Cruel Princess. However, she calls him a zesty creep, and this sends chills down Masamune's spine, as he realizes that being hot alone isn't enough. Later, while he's in class, the Cruel Princess walks in and orders the whole class to tell her where a fat simp named Tanabe is. When no one responds, she grabs Masamune's tie to question him about Tanabe's whereabouts. However, before he can respond, Tanabe identifies himself, so she releases Masamune, takes out the love letter the Fatso had written her earlier, and reads it to the entire class. Afterwards, she rips the letter to shreds and walks out, leaving poor Tanabe's heart and pride on the floor. Seeing this, Masamune asks his friends, Futaba and Shuri, why she's like that, and they tell him that it's because she's a man-hating feminist notorious for harshly rejecting her simps. Following this, they mention her name, Aki, and Masamune realizes it's the same Aki who brutally rejected him 8 years ago. He then thanks the anime gods for giving him a second chance to get his revenge and immediately starts spying on her. During their lunch break, he learns from Shuri that despite having an army of aspiring feminists following her around, Aki actually prefers eating alone for some weird reason. So after eating, he follows her to investigate her secret, only to lose track of her. After searching the entire school without finding her, Masamune is just about to give up when he suddenly spots Aki's slave Yoshino, walking carefully towards the gym with snacks in hand. Curious, he follows her to a dark gym storage room to eavesdrop on them, but a spider appears in front of him, scaring the idiot into exposing himself. Realizing that he's been caught, he tries to lie his way out of trouble, but when he notices the stacks of food trays Aki has already emptied, he finally understands why she always eats alone. She's a walking food vacuum. After a brief silence, Aki's stomach growls, leaving her in generational aura dead. To defend herself, she tells Masamune that she has an insanely high metabolism, which makes her eat 5 times more than a normal person, and threatens to destroy his life if he ever snitches on her. Masamune knows he's just been dealt a trump card against Aki, so to avoid annoying her further, he leaves quietly. Over the next few hours, he keeps trying to get close to her, but Aki shuns his every attempt. After school, Aki sends drowsy Yoshino to get her some food, but while she's away, Tanabe shows up, pissed at her for humiliating him, so he grabs her hair and takes out his scissors to cut it. However, before that happens, Masamune shows up, grabs the scissor blades with his bare hands, and sends the brainless dork running away. Afterwards, he asks Aki if she's doing okay, but she seems more concerned about his bleeding hand. To preserve his aura, Masamune ignores the excruciating pain from the wound and compliments her smile instead, causing Aki to blush unexpectedly. After this, he picks up his bag and walks away, while reminding himself of his revenge plan to make Aki fall for him, so he can dump her like yesterday's trash. However, the next morning, Masamune finds a letter in his locker with the words "pig's foot" written on it, and immediately starts fidgeting, scared he might have been discovered. When he gets to class, he looks around to see who could have sent that letter. At first, he suspects Aki did it, but then remembers that she's a classy witch who would rather humiliate him publicly as payback than send a cruddy letter. So he writes her off and starts wondering who else might know about his embarrassing past. After homeroom, Masamune chills out in front of the cranky lunch lady shop, worried sick that the unknown sender might expose his true identity to Aki and lay waste to the last 8 years he spent preparing for his perfect revenge. While he sits and mopes around, the afternoon lunch rush begins, and 6 hungry students, including Yoshino, rush to the shop to get food. As Yoshino tries to wriggle her way to the front of the line, the angry students push her out, causing her to fall into a sus doggy pose and expose her portable vanilla buns for Masamune to gaze on. Feeling sorry for her, Masamune checks in on her. But Yoshino starts speaking gibberish and hands him some money along with a list of things Aki wants to eat so he can buy them for her. Unable to refuse, Masamune gets everything on the list and has her counted to ensure it's complete. Once she's confirmed the count, Yoshino gets up to head to the gym storage room. But before she gets far, Masamune stops her and asks to follow her. Hearing this, Yoshino tries sneaking away. But Masamune stops her, scares her a little with his oddly realistic Diddy impression, apologizes for being weird, and assures her that he just wants to talk. When they arrive at the hideout, Aki starts raining down heavy insults on Yoshino for being late as usual. But as she munches on her lunch like a fat cow, she chokes, causing Yoshino to rush out to get her some tea. With Yoshino gone, Masamune, who's been hiding at the entrance ever since they arrived, briskly walks in and asks if Aki's alright, but Aki freaks out and demands to know what he's doing there. To preserve his aura, Masamune says he's dropping by to say hi, and an embarrassed Aki asks him about his wounds. Masamune pretends he's healing and engages her in more baseless conversations, just to hurt her pride. Eventually, he confirms that Aki's not the letter's sender, but as he continues to wonder who person X could be, Yoshino returns with Aki's tea. But she trips over on her way in and falls, exposing her cake to him again. Flustered, Aki pokes Masamune's eyes so he'll stop staring at Yoshino's behind. But right after the incident, Yoshino offers him a juice carton, and Aki trash-talks her for being too nice. Irritated by her narcissistic comments, Masamune gets up, pulls on a few strands of her hair, and tells her, in his cringiest Chris Brown voice, that he wants her to rely on him more than Yoshino. Right after, he heads out of the gym room, secretly happy with himself that he's slowly winning Aki's heart, all thanks to the brain-rot romance he picked up from his sister's shoujo manga, and decides to move on to the next stage of his plan, which is getting Aki's email. Later that evening, while walking home, Masamune gets caught in a weird rope trap attached to a tree and is suspended midair. As he panics, Yoshino shows up with a dagger in hand, reveals herself to be Person X by calling him Pig's Foot, and asks if he's still trying to get back at Aki for rejecting him 8 years ago. At first, Masamune freaks out, asking her how she knows his old nickname. But when he remembers Yoshino from a picture his younger self and Aki shared, he realizes Yoshino is Aki's actual servant, and freaks out even more. With nothing left to hide, Yoshino cuts him loose, but as she tries to explain that her family has been serving Aki's family for ages, Masamune gives up on his revenge mission and urges her to report him if she wants. To his surprise, Yoshino not only cheers him to continue his plan, but she sticks her dagger in between his nuts and promises to help him. The following day at school, Masamune spies on Yoshino from the corridor upstairs and ultimately decides he can't trust her with his revenge plan. However, just as he's about to approach Aki, Futaba shows up with a bunch of paper in her hands, and Masamune helps her carry them to their classroom. On the way, he decides to try asking Futaba for her email, because he's never done it before. But before the words even leave his mouth, he chokes and runs away like a spineless coward. Minutes later, while he chills in class, Masamune learns from Futaba and another student that the school beautification committee lost a member and is looking for someone to fill in until summer. Since Aki's also in the same club, Masamune seizes the opportunity to be close to her and volunteers to join. Later that day, he joins his new club members to help clean the school fountain, but Aki just ignores him. This pisses him off, but he keeps his cool and continues cleaning, knowing full well that deep down, it's probably because he's worthless. Later on, while he sulks alone in a random classroom, Futaba suddenly shows up looking nervous, sits near him, and asks him out on a movie date. Hearing this, Masamune freaks out internally, as he's happy to be approached by a girl, but when he remembers his current objective, he rejects her proposal. And the poor girl leaves him thinking he's now the Ryan Gosling of their school. Seconds later, while he does his little happy dance, Aki shows up and asks about his meeting with Futaba. But then Masamune, sensing some jealousy in her tone, tells her he rejected her because he wants to go out with Aki. After a brief silence, Aki thanks him for the compliment, and Masamune, taking it as a green light, immediately asks for her email. For some weird reason, Aki agrees to share her email, but then she tells him that her phone is being repaired that instant, so she'll rather tell him that the next time they're on duty the following week. A week later, Masamune shows up early at the same classroom, but Aki stands him up. As he crashes out, he spots a letter Aki left for him, and follows it on a wild goose chase until he finds himself in the school's animal pen, getting soiled by chicken poop. To solve the final piece of the puzzle, he runs towards the classroom window and looks down, only to find Aki outside, holding a long banner that says she declines his offer. As he crashes out, Yoshino shows up, accuses him of being stupidly naive, and gives him her number, so they can work together to bring Aki to her knees. Days later, Futaba informs the class that the teachers have decided to force everyone into supplementary classes for a whole month if just one person fails the upcoming proficiency test. As the class processes the news, Futaba approaches Masamune, looking visibly nervous, and tells him that passing the test should not be a problem for him, since he's a straight-A student. To avoid sounding arrogant, Masamune tries telling her that Shuri, who's right beside them, is just as smart as he is. However, when Shuri reveals that he usually scores in the single digits on his tests, they realize that he's dumber than Beetlejuice. So Masamune decides to tutor him to keep him from failing their class. After homeroom, Masamune takes Shuri to the library, but as they're about to start studying, he spots Aki and Yoshino sitting next to them and asks Aki if they're also studying for the test. After telling him she's there to help Yoshino study, Aki starts trash-talking Masamune. While she's at it, Masamune and Yoshino briefly lock eyes, and he suddenly remembers everything she promised to do for him if they work together to bring Aki to her knees. Knowing this, he proposes a contest between them. If he and Shuri score higher on the proficiency test than Aki and Yoshino do, then Aki will have to go on a date with him. Otherwise, Masamune promises to buy her lunch for as long as he shall in live, and even let her give him a nickname that he'll wear on his back till he graduates. Satisfied with the conditions, Aki accepts the challenge and leaves with her slave, without realizing that Masamune is playing chess while she's playing checkers. Later that night, Yoshino studies, while Aki chills, thinking Masamune is all muscle and no brain. However, when Yoshino tells her that Masamune actually scored a perfect on the transfer exam, Aki cringes in shock and urges Yoshino to keep studying, so they don't fall behind. Later on, Yoshino calls Masamune to tell him she won't help him win the wager, because he made a stupid decision on the spot, and Masamune freaks out upon hearing this. The following day, the proficiency test begins. After their first few papers, Aki meets Masamune in the corridor, gauges his skills on the exam, and leaves. Masamune knows the battle isn't over yet, so with the little time they have left before the hardest test, which is math, he tutors Shuri during the day and works out at home at night. On the eve of the test, his lolly mom, Kinwei, and his sister, Chinatsu, spot him studying, and Kinwei decides to reward him with a high-protein lunch for school. The next day, Masamune and Shuri breeze through their first paper like clockwork and decide to get some calories in before their math test. Before eating, Masamune walks to the vending machine to get drinks for himself and Shuri, but there he finds Yoshino, who gives him a black iced tea and leaves. Despite being confused, he drinks the tea, returns to class, eats his mom's protein lunch, and gets ready for his hardest test yet. However, the moment the test begins, Masamune's stomach starts hurting really badly, and he suspects that Yoshino put laxatives inside the iced tea she gave him earlier. Pissed, he spends the entire test cursing Aki and Yoshino. Once it's over, he angrily walks to Aki's class to confront her, only to find out from one of her classmates that she's actually down with a fever. Confused, Masamune stares at Yoshino, who is nearby, and starts wondering why she would try to poison him earlier if she was secretly helping him. In the silence that follows, Chinatsu's text buzzes through his phone, and upon reading it, Masamune learns that his mom's bad omelet was the culprit. Days later, Masamune gets a weird call from Yoshino, who tells him to prepare for a date with Aki by noon on the weekend, and takes note. On day, he gets dressed up nicely and gets to the train station quickly, only to see Aki dressed up in a weird, white magical outfit that makes her stand out. One time, an obese subreddit mod tries to harass her, but Masamune, who's just as shocked as everybody else staring, saves her and asks why she's dressed like a washed-up Disney princess. At the time, Aki didn't really know how weird she looked, because Yoshino apparently told her that's the right way to dress for a date, so she started acting like a brat, telling Masamune he was the one being stupid. Moments later, Masamune sneaks aside and asks Yoshino on the phone why she made Aki dress like that. In response, Yoshino tells him it's to show him the level of subtle control she has over Aki. Understanding her explanation, Masamune then asks why she's going so far to help him, but Yoshino just wishes him luck and hangs up. Following his phone call, Masamune returns to Aki and tells her that he eventually won the challenge in the end, but Aki refuses to accept defeat, as she claims Yoshino told her that he basically became an empty shell after failing his test, and could only be saved if they went on a date together. Masamune clearly knows Yoshino lied to her, but since it's too late to explain himself, He follows her into the movie theater she rented out just for them and watches a zombie highway romance ripoff with her. Once the movie's over, he notices Aki's literal soul leaving her body, as she's scared to death of horror movies, and takes her out to get some air. Once she's back to normal, Aki's stomach growls, so Masamune treats her to a family-sized lunch, as usual. While she's at it, Masamune remembers the Aki he knew back then as strong and arrogant, not some food hogger who freeloads off any boy she meets. At one point, he considers asking how she became that way, but then a little girl shows up and pisses her off by trash-talking her embarrassing outfit. As Aki angrily responds, Masamune drags her out of the restaurant and tells her that her costume is truly bad for a date. Embarrassed, Aki walks to a nearby boutique's changing room to change her clothes. While she's at it, she gets so embarrassed that she screams, but Masamune, scared, rushes into the changing room and sees her melons and cake. Shocked, she knocks him out cold with a single cold and has him dreaming about their childhood together. Moments later, when he wakes up, he finds himself sleeping on her lap, sees her napping, and remembers just how strong and kind she was back then. Soon after, Aki wakes up embarrassed, gets up, and walks home after listening to Masamune's apology. Later on, Masamune gets on the phone with Yoshino, and she tells him that she's helping because she believes Aki needs to re-examine herself a bit, so that she and everyone can be happier. Later that night, Masamune continues studying more rizzing techniques to use on Aki from his new collection of brain-rot romance manga. After updating his already low-intelligence brain with more stupid romance advice, he goes to sleep. The following day, after classes, Masamune and Aki attend supplementary classes since they both failed their proficiency tests. As the lesson begins, Masamune deliberately selects a seat very close to Aki and gazes at her throughout, making Aki uncomfortable. At one point, she gets fed up and urges him to face forward, but Masamune suddenly tells her he can't because he has eyes for her, cringing the heck out of Aki. After supplementary classes, it rains heavily, but since Aki doesn't have an umbrella, she gets stuck at school. While she waits for the rain to stop, Masamune suddenly shows up with an umbrella, gives it to her, says some more cringy romance words he learned from his manga, and leaves before Aki can even respond. By nightfall, he meets with Yoshino in a park and learns that Aki has been calling him a disgusting creep ever since she returned from school. Pissed, Masamune threatens to murder that annoying twerp. But Yoshino advises him to be as cold as possible the next time they meet, so he can give her the drama she needs to keep on her toes. After their meeting, Masamune returns home and considers following Yoshino's advice, but is afraid it might backfire and make Aki hate him. The next day, Masamune crosses paths with Aki at school, but as she is about to return the umbrella he lent her the previous day, he remembers Yoshino's words and walks past her, as if she does not even exist. After school, she tries to return the umbrella during supplementary classes, but he does the same thing. Later that evening, he runs into Aki and Yoshino, fully expecting Aki to be a damsel in distress waiting for him, her Prince Charming, to give her all the attention she so desperately needs. However, when Aki ignores him and turns to leave, Masamune panics, afraid she hates him. As he tries to follow them, Yoshino gives him a death stare, so he keeps his distance. Over the next few days, the two lovesick idiots continue to ignore each other for absolutely no reason, until Masamune starts hyperventilating. Then one evening, Aki ambushes him in the corridor, demanding that they talk, but Masamune is not ready to talk to her while she's in cruel princess mode, so he turns back and runs. Unfortunately, before he gets far, Aki hits him with his umbrella, which distracts him and blocks all his escape routes. At one point, Masamune actually breaks free of her grasp, but before he gets far, Aki grabs his tie, choke slams him to the ground, and crashes out at him for ignoring her. While she's at it, Masamune closes his eyes, hoping this hour will pass him by, but when Aki gently asks why he's ignoring her, claiming she's confused, Masamune gasps in shock, finally glad to see her vulnerable side. To avoid getting carried away, he composes himself and tells Aki that he was actually doing it on purpose to see if she was truly interested in him. This line works on Aki like a charm, as she calls him awful the same way a girl would tell you no when she really wants you to hit. After a brief and awkward silence, Aki then asks Masamune, her cheeks blushing red, what he likes about her, and this is where our boy fumbles the whole thing, hook, line, and sinker. Rather than cooking up a genuine lie she can believe, he chokes and tells her he likes everything about her, then leaves like a spineless coward. Later that evening, he meets with Yoshino and tells her everything that happened. Disappointed, Yoshino calls him a hopeless idiot with a shallow mind, But Masamune doesn't care now because he's too stupid and needs a solution pronto. When Yoshino doesn't proffer one, he writes a love letter and tries to sneak it into Aki's locker the following day during recess. Sadly, before he can complete his mission, Aki shows up at the last minute and demands that he explain himself. At this, Masamune tries to give her the love letter, but she rejects it instantly and tells him she's seen through his frivolity long ago. As she's about to crash out again, she suddenly stops and runs out of the school. Shortly after, Yoshino shows up and asks Masamune what's wrong. When Masamune tells him everything Aki just told him, expressing his confusion, Yoshino promises to solve the issue and orders him to stand down for now, since he's too stupid to be a functioning man for Aki. Moments later, Aki spends her next few periods at the school's park, worried sick about skipping class for the first time, and doing her best to shake off the irritating feeling all over her body. Just then, she remembers following Masamune on the day he blew her off, and learning that he's been meeting with Yoshino in secret. Thankfully, her jealousy didn't make her figure out why Masamune and Yoshino were truly meeting, as she's more worried that Masamune might also be trying to rizz Yoshino up too. As she crashes out, Yoshino suddenly appears behind her, admits she's been seeing Masamune in secret, and then asks if she feels sad about it. Initially, Aki tries to deny her growing feelings for Masamune, but Yoshino holds her cheeks the same way she did when they were younger and urges her to be true to herself. For a second, Aki actually considers telling Yoshino everything, but then she snaps out of it, and, while remembering the hurt she felt when her best friend left her ages ago, swears she'll never let boys like Masamune lie and play with her heart again. Once she's finished her proclamations, Yoshino assures her that Masamune has eyes only for her and then asks if she's falling for him too. At this, Aki blushes all over, but when she turns back to deny that, she realizes Yoshino's gone. Confused, she walks the streets searching for Yoshino, but soon gets lost in thought, as she trash-talks herself for always being such a cold-hearted jerk to boys, and wonders if Masamune truly likes her, not even realizing she's walking into oncoming traffic. Fortunately for her, just as she's about to get hit by a speeding car, Masamune saves her and scolds her for disobeying a red light. Confused, Aki asks him why her life matters to him, and Masamune accidentally tells her that it's because he doesn't know what he would do if she were to die. Moved by his words, Aki gives in to her feelings for him, holds his hands, and stares right into his soul, leaning in for her first kiss. Unfortunately, before Masamune can achieve phase 1 of his plan, a chick from the car that just sped by, Neko, suddenly rushes by and latches herself onto Masamune, claiming that he's her long-lost love. Granted, Masamune is just as confused as you are, because he does not know her from Adam, but unfortunately, he is too stupid to realize that he's supposed to push her off and start explaining himself to Aki, who is right beside him. Instead, he lets Neko press her soft, slender body against his and even holds hands with her right in front of Aki. Noticing the confusion on his face, Neko calls Masamune by name and asks if he remembers her. As his brain spirals in confusion, Masamune tells her she has the wrong person, and before Neko can respond, her bodyguard, Shido, takes her away. Afterwards, Masamune remembers Aki and tries to explain things, but she just leaves. The next day in school, Masamune risks his life to buy Aki a family-sized lunch and walks towards the gym storage room to deliver the merchandise to Aki, so he can bribe her into giving him a listening ear. However, as he approaches the gym, carrying almost 10 pounds of food in both hands, Yoshino pops out of the shrubs nearby and shoots him with an airsoft gun. Thankfully, Masamune survives the attack, but when Yoshino comes out of hiding, she tells him that she's acting under Aki's orders to keep him away from her and urges him to explain why Aki's so pissed at him. After Masamune explains everything, swearing that he doesn't even know who Neko is, Yoshino shoots with another round of airsoft rounds, then she runs away without saying anything else. With her gone, Masamune walks towards the gym's entrance and practices some narcissistic lines he learned from his brain-rot romance manga, thinking it'll work on Aki this time. Thankfully, his last brain cell kicks in at the last minute. So rather than making things worse, he just places all the food he bought at the entrance and walks away. The next morning in school, Masamune freaks out in class, as he constantly struggles to keep Neko and Aki out of his head. However, as homeroom begins, the worst thing that could happen, happens. Neko, who actually happens to be a Nepo baby, transfers to his school, ensuring she's in the same class as Masamune. During their 5-minute morning recess, Masamune desperately tries to ask Neko for answers. But unfortunately, the females hog all of Neko's attention to themselves, blocking every single opportunity Masamune has to talk to her. This goes on for the rest of the day, even in the bathroom. But eventually, Masamune gets fed up with being pushed to the side. So, carrying the hopes and dreams of all the simps, who also want a piece of Neko, he approaches her and the females flocking around her to ask her some questions. Unfortunately for him, as he inches closer, the females gasp in shock, stare at him, and ask if he knows that Neko transferred to their school just for him. As Masamune just freezes in complete shock, Neko starts acting all cute and bubbly, telling everybody that she just happens to feel indebted to Masamune. At this, the girls encourage her to tell him how she feels for him, and Neko says it all began 3 years ago, during Christmas. At the time, she stood out in the cold, wearing summer clothes, to get people to donate for Christmas. But while she was getting ignored, a guy who looked like Masamune covered her with his coat, donated some cash to her cause, told her some cheeky brain-rot romance lines, and dipped like Batman. Upon hearing this, the girls scream in happiness for Neko, but poor Masamune knows he's not that guy, because at that time, he was still a walking cholesterol factory. Eventually, he grabs Neko, gets her outside their school, and asks her why she lied to everyone that they're besties when in reality, they don't know each other. Rather than giving him a straight answer, Neko puts on her cute and bubbly face again and starts talking about them, keeping her feelings a secret. Seeing this, Masamune nearly gets swayed by her cuteness, but thankfully, he snaps back to his senses and tells her, in his most nervous voice, that he has someone that he likes. Heartbroken, Neko asks if Masamune and his mystery girl are actually dating, but Masamune tells her that they're not, because his feelings are still one-sided. Hearing this, she urges him to introduce her to the girl, and young, dumb, and idiotic Masamune takes her right up to Aki's classroom to introduce them. Getting there, Neko boldly approaches Aki, despite Masamune's warning her not to, and calls her the esteemed holder of Masamune's affection. As Aki is about to respond, Masamune realizes he has made a stupid mistake and rushes toward them to de-escalate the tension. Suddenly, a student opens a window, and a gust of wind blows up Neko's skirt, revealing that she is not wearing any underwear. Afterwards, Neko realizes Masamune and Aki have already seen her goodies, but as she tries explaining to Masamune that not wearing undies is a health tip, Aki gets disgusted and walks out of her own class. Refusing to let her go, Masamune follows her outside and tells her Neko is nobody to him. But Aki doesn't believe him, so he grabs her shoulders to keep her from slipping away. Irritated, Aki struggles to break free of Masamune's hold, but she accidentally punches a teacher's face in the process. Pissed, the teacher instantly accuses them of skipping class and punishes them by making them clean the school pool after classes. Once classes are over, both lovebirds get to the school pool, and Aki decides to clean the other side, so she can be as far away from Masamune as possible. At first, Masamune endured the humiliation. However, in due time, he picks up a hose and playfully drenches Aki in water, claiming his hand slipped. Aki chooses to be the bigger person, but before long, she too places a bucket of water on her head and hurls it towards Masamune so she can accidentally drench him in water too. When he notices her coming, Masamune freaks out and begs Aki to stop whatever she's planning to do, as he doesn't want to go home in drenched underwear. Aki ignores him and keeps moving, cackling like Maleficent from Temu. Unfortunately, before she carries out her revenge, she slips and falls into the pool and struggles to stay afloat. When Masamune notices this, he immediately dives into the pool to save her, not caring about getting his clothes wet, only for Aki to gain her footing and save herself. Soon after, Aki asks why he risked getting to save her, and Masamune says his body just moved on its own. When Aki makes yet another insensitive comment, Masamune crashes out, telling her she wouldn't have believed him anyway if he said he jumped in because he liked her, and Aki is left speechless. In the silence that ensues, Masamune surprisingly finds himself getting pissed over Aki's stubbornness. However, before uttering anything else, Aki tells him to prove that he likes her by kissing her. Hearing this, Masamune's heart skips a beat, not just because it would be his first kiss, but also because he feels it is too soon for his cringy revenge plan. After a brief silence, Aki immediately clocks him as a coward and tries to climb out of the pool, but Masamune grabs her hands and pulls her closer. In that moment, he imagines her as a human-shaped ham and decides to sacrifice all his aura to deliver the softest first kiss she will ever experience. Sadly, just before their lips touch, Aki freaks out and punches Masamune back to the water. After surviving the attack, Masamune confronts Aki for chickening out at the last minute. But as she tries to play victim, Futaba and 3 other randoms show up for swimming practice, causing Masamune and Aki to get themselves out of there. Moments later, Masamune chills out on an outdoor, desperately trying to figure out what's going on with Aki, while also wondering how the kiss would have felt if it actually happened. As he's busy ransacking his brain cells, the party pooper, Neko, suddenly shows up and sits beside him for a discussion. When Masamune tells her he's too tired to talk, she takes out a vacuum flask and a cup, pours some salty hot tea inside, and offers it to Masamune. Masamune collects the cup and drinks the tea. However, as he's about to complain that it's salty, Neko tells him not to let his body cool down too much, especially since it's currently summertime, and then starts yapping about medicinal supplements and what his body lacks. After listening to her yap for several minutes, Masamune asks Neko what she likes about him, fully expecting her to get super confused about the answer, as his stupid self did back when Aki asked the same question. However, when Neko says she likes his modesty and cute obliviousness to his own charms, Masamune's world goes white and calm, as if he'd just been blessed by an angel's words. With Masamune left speechless, Neko overloads his brain with more compliments and leaves him totally confused over his next move. Over the next few hours, Yoshino spots Neko at the school gate, talking to Shido, and decides to follow her for the rest of the evening. Neko obviously knows she's being followed, but rather than spooking Yoshino, she purposely walks to Masamune's neighborhood, takes a quick corner, which causes Yoshino to lose track of her, and then makes Shido confront Yoshino off guard. With Yoshino caught, Neko comes out of her hiding place, tells Yoshino to drop the confused, cute servant girl act, and urges her to be free around her. At this, Yoshino switches to her real self and asks Neko why she's so concerned with Masamune. But Neko tells her the same lie she told everybody, that it's because Masamune saved her in the past. Yoshino clearly knows she's lying. However, as she's about to call her out, Masamune's mother shows up, recognizes their uniforms to be from Masamune's school, and invites them for dinner at their house. Moments later, Masamune gets home and nearly pisses his pants in shock when he spots Yoshino and Neko helping his mom make tempura in their kitchen. At first, he is convinced that he's entered the wrong house, but the moment he recognizes his mother's face, he realizes he's indeed in his real house. So he drags Yoshino to his room upstairs and demands an explanation. After Yoshino explains, Masamune apologizes on his airheaded mom's behalf and tells Yoshino that he needs her and Neko out of his house ASAP before either of them sees something dangerous. As he tries hiding the picture he took with little Aki back then in his drawer, along with the tissues and gooning materials he used the previous night, Yoshino stares at his quality indoor gym equipment and immediately clocks him as an obsessive gym bro. Unfortunately, as he tries explaining the reality of the situation to Yoshino, Neko shows up and starts admiring his room. Shocked, he pushes Neko out of the room, slams his door shut, and gets to the dining area when Neko tells him that dinner is ready. As they're about to eat dinner, Chinatsu tries to expose Masamune's horrible past as a bullied fatty to Neko out of pure spite. But Masamune stops her midway and prudently eats his tempura. Halfway through dinner, Kinwei notices Masamune removing the breading from his tempura, and Neko taking out a bunch of supplements to munch on, and crashes out on both of them for being rude at dinner. When Masamune tries responding to her, Chinatsu suggests they do some fireworks after dinner, and they all agree to do her idea. Soon after eating dinner, Chinatsu and the girls put on full-on yukatas, and spent the next few hours lighting fireworks in their backyard. While Chinatsu and Neko chill together, Masamune apologizes to Yoshino, who seems uninterested in fireworks, for making her go through this, but Yoshino tells him she's uninterested because Aki had once used her as a guinea pig in one of her experiments. Feeling sorry for her, Masamune lets her enjoy herself alone and stares at Neko as she fixes Chinatsu's sash. Once she's done, Neko gazes at the rest of the fireworks with him until Kinwei shows up with some watermelon slices and proposes that they do a seed-spitting contest, just to lighten up the mood. While they all have fun, Masamune starts seeing Neko in a different light and wonders if he might have felt something more for her, if not for his personal vendetta against Aki. Unfortunately, while he's left wondering, the fun ends. However, as Neko's about to leave, she stops by Masamune's room for some reason and does something sneaky. After that, Masamune sees her off to her car and escorts Yoshino on her stroll back home. Halfway through, Yoshino warns Masamune never to let Neko string him along with her shenanigans, and Masamune swears to stay true to his mission. On her way home, Neko stares through the picture she stole from Masamune's room, the same picture he took with Aki back when they were much younger. The following day, Masamune corners Aki in her hideout, feeds her a boatload of food, and tries using some corny one-liner to swoon her. Thankfully, Aki is smart and knows her worth, so she tells him what he is, a moron, which leaves Masamune crying to Yoshino. A few weeks later, Masamune's school finally ends its last class for the first term, which means that it's time for summer break. While the other students rejoice in class, Shuri asks Masamune if he has any plans for a summer vacation. However, as Masamune is about to respond, Aki strides into class, slams the stupid beach vacation flyer Masamune apparently put on her desk earlier, and demands to know why he's inviting her to some washed-out beach party. As Masamune reveals that it's all part of his master plan to force Aki to love him during this break, Aki smugly tells him she already has plans to spend her summer at her family's island villa, then invites Shuri to accompany her on the trip just to spite Masamune. Hearing this, Masamune freezes in shock, unsure how to play this, but luckily for him, Shuri accepts Aki's invitation on the condition that Masamune, Futaba, and Neko come along, and Aki eventually agrees. A few days later, Masamune and the others hop on Aki's luxury yacht and set sail for her family's private island villa. On the way there, Yoshino approaches Masamune and tells him that she tried doing a background check on Neko earlier, but couldn't even find anything on her at all, almost as if she were a ghost. Hearing this, Masamune is initially confused, but he quickly regains his composure and assures Yoshino that he still has his eyes on Aki, not Neko. Unfazed, Yoshino tells Masamune to take his mission seriously and do something to make Aki fall completely in love with him, or else she will tell her everything they've been planning so far. Hours later, when they arrive at the beautiful villa, Aki's father's secretary, Uesaki, meets them at the entrance, her giant vanilla-flavored melons and cake bulging from her scanty dress, and welcomes them. After that, she compliments Aki's other friends, but the moment she spots Masamune, a hot boy, she latches onto Aki and politely urges her to explain what's happening. As Aki freaks out, thinking of what to tell her, Masamune remembers that Aki loves to look good in front of other women, so he boldly tells Uesaki that he's Aki's boyfriend, leaving everyone else shocked. After a brief silence, Aki hits Masamune on the face with her bag, expecting Uesaki to scold her for dating at her age. However, when Uesaki trash-talks her repulsive disdain for men and cheers her on, she drags Masamune to a room to talk. There, Masamune revels in happiness because his risky plan paid off, and Aki, left with no other choice, ultimately decides to keep up the act. So she doesn't look bad in front of Uesaki. A few moments later, Masamune and his peers visit the beach to cool off. However, while he exposes his chiseled body to the sun, Neko suddenly shows up dressed in a sultry swimsuit, latches her plump milk factories onto his body, and begs him to help her apply her sunscreen. As Masamune fights his Coctopus Prime from launching, Aki suddenly shows up, separates the two of them, and tells Neko to try her cheap tricks elsewhere. Unfazed, Neko teases Aki to get a rise out of her, so that she'll look bad in front of Uesaki, but when Aki calmly deflects her snide remarks, claiming that Neko's the one getting played, Neko decides to back down. Following their altercation, Aki drags Masamune to a secluded spot on the beach and orders the dingus to go back to the villa and get her some food. Getting there, Masamune meets Uesaki in the kitchen and has her fix something quick and light for Aki to munch on. After that, Masamune asks her what he and his buddies can do on the island for fun, and Uesaki responds, telling him they can try out the Test of Courage horror house that just opened at night. Hearing this, Masamune clocks it as a perfect way to make Aki scared, so that he can rescue her as her Prince Charming, and thanks Uesaki for the help. As he leaves, Uesaki reveals how much she secretly hates seeing Masamune as Aki's boyfriend, and swears to send him straight to the pits of the underworld. Following her dramatic display, Uesaki explains that her hate all stems from the very first year she was hired as Aki's father's secretary. On that fateful day, she found little Aki crying profusely because little fat and ugly Masamune had left her, so she did her best to comfort her. However, when Aki chose her pride over being coddled, Uesaki adored her as the queen of feminists and urged her to keep breaking hearts left and right, so she could rule the world one day. However, now that Masamune is in the picture, she fears Aki will lose her touch with her girl boss side and get soft, which is unacceptable. Later that night, Masamune takes all his friends, including Aki, to the horror house and rigs the starting order so that Yoshino goes in first, Aki fourth, and he goes in fifth, so he'll be there to save her when she needs him. Moments later, as the event begins, Uesaki hides in one of the rooms dressed in a ghostly costume, waiting for Masamune to pass by so she can scare him senseless and humiliate him right in front of Aki. However, before she gets her chance, Texas Chainsaw Yoshino shows up with her saw, ready to cut into some flesh, and Iwasaki runs like a crazed cartoon character for dear life. On her way outside, Iwasaki bumps into Aki, who screeches in fear like a newborn eagle, and continues running when Masamune shows up with Texas Yoshino right behind him. Along the way, she scares the life out of Shuri and Futaba as she zooms past them. But even after getting outside, Neko also appears in front of her with blood dripping from her mouth. Seeing this, Iwasaki loses all logic in her remaining brain cells and continues running with her eyes closed until she hits a nearby pole and knocks herself out. Moments later, when she wakes up, she finds Masamune piggybacking her and keeps her filthy mouth shut, as Masamune, who thinks she's doing something good, thanks her for helping them make the event memorable. When Iwasaki tells him she was trying to bring him and Aki closer, Masamune tells her that he and Aki were never really dating. Then he apologizes for stringing her along. Hearing this, Iwasaki realizes how foolish she is for trying to sabotage them. When they reunite with the others, Masamune urges her to keep what he told her secret, and she agrees. A few days later, while Masamune and his buddies sail back to Tokyo, Yoshino approaches him and assures him she'll keep her mouth shut for now because of the stunt he pulled trying to convince everyone he and Aki were dating earlier, and Masamune heaves a sigh of relief. A few nights later, while Masamune is busy burning calories, he receives a call from Aki and freaks out at first, but eventually picks it up. After the call, Masamune meets up with Yoshino in the park nearby and tells her that Aki actually called to tell him that he forgot one of his bags at the villa. She wanted them to meet the following day, so she could personally give it to him. Apparently, Masamune seems to think this is a big win for him, but Yoshino warns that although Aki's sentiment can be considered a big step, he shouldn't let his guard down, because in reality, he's entering into uncharted territory. Hearing this, Masamune takes note and returns home to continue doing some homework. However, when he opens his drawer to take out his textbooks, he realizes that the picture of little he and Aki, which he kept hidden there on the night Neko and Yoshino came over to cook dinner, is gone. After a mini freakout, Masamune thinks back to the night Neko and Yoshino came to have dinner with them and realizes that Neko must have stolen the picture. The following day, Masamune meets up with Aki in a random diner to collect the bag he left behind. Apparently, Aki had the intention of mailing the stuff to him at first, but Iwasaki, the ultimate wingman or wingwoman, told her to deliver the bag to him herself. Now that they're seeing each other, Aki moves on to warn Masamune that he would be sorry if he continues acting overly familiar with her. Judging by the look on her face, Masamune recalls the same face she used to make back when they were younger, the same face that made him fall in love with her back then. However, now that the only picture he has of them is missing, he spaces out as he tries to figure out why Neko would even go that far to steal the picture. While he's at it, Aki tries telling him about a pool hangout Futaba invited them to earlier, but Masamune ignores her as he's too lost in thought until she snaps and leaves. After that odd reaction from Aki, Masamune realizes he has to nip this Neko problem in the bud, so when she calls him seconds later to ask if he'll be going to Futaba's pool hangout, Masamune asks if he could come visit her later that day, and she agrees. An hour later, Masamune visits Neko's luxurious apartment and settles nervously, while she makes them some tea. After the niceties, Neko asks Masamune why he suddenly asked to see her, but since Masamune was too stupid to think of a reason beforehand, he makes one up on the spot, and she believes him. With that settled, he then asks for her bathroom, but when Neko tells him where to find it, he sneaks into her dark room instead. Getting there, he notices her weird romance manga connection, picks up a particular one he's read before, and sits on her bed to glance at it. Just then, Neko appears behind him, telling him that the tea is ready, but Masamune knows he's been caught, so he freaks out internally. Lucky for him, Neko doesn't see him as a creep and actually discusses the reason why she bought the manga. Amid their lighthearted discussion, Masamune gets serious and asks her outright if she snuck into his room the other night and stole one of his photos. With nothing left to hide, Neko admits, as she takes the photo out of her cups, that she stole it because she found the picture very cute. At this, Masamune asks if she meant that Aki was the one who looked cute in the picture, but Neko tells him that he was the one who looked adorable in the childhood photo. Shocked, Masamune reminds her that he was fat in that picture, but Neko holds his hands and assures him that she loves him nonetheless. At this point, Masamune's brain goes white, because that's the first time anyone ever complimented his old look. In that single moment of uncertainty, Neko notices the shock and happiness in Masamune's eyes, so she kisses his lips much longer than you ever did on your first kiss. At one point, Masamune pulls his lips off hers, but Neko gently pushes him to the bed and urges him to get ready to take her V-card. The feeling of her soft melons and honey pot oozing out watery love liquids makes Masamune forget about his revenge on Aki for a second, as he nearly gives in to Neko's temptation. However, at the last minute, he suddenly remembers the day Aki called him pig's foot, and realizes that he'll be disappointing his ancestors if he claps Neko before Aki. So, with a heavy heart, he refuses Neko's advancement, tells her everything he had to suffer as a fat boy back then, and adds that he knows she doesn't genuinely like him, because if she did, she wouldn't be forcing herself on him. As Masamune picks up the photo to leave the house, Neko asks if he's really going to choose Aki over her, but Masamune tells her it's his revenge and leaves a new man. Shortly after watching him leave, Neko gets her first heartbreak and breaks down in tears. The following day, Masamune visits the pool that Futaba had invited them to hang out at earlier. Looking down as if something really bad had happened, the others immediately notice that something's wrong with him. But when Futaba tells everyone that Neko isn't coming, as she canceled at the last minute, Masamune's heart takes yet another critical hit. As for Aki, she keeps quiet the entire time, knowing fully well that something's wrong with Masamune, and just continues observing him. Over the next few hours, Futaba, Shuri, and Yoshino have the time of their lives trying out various fun games, while Masamune just sulks and Aki watches him, secretly worried sick that he's not being himself. Later that day, once everyone is done having fun, Masamune meets Yoshino at the exit gate and waits for the others to show up. As Yoshino questions him to figure out what happened, the others arrive and they all stroll home. On the way, Shido's car suddenly pulls up and stops beside them. She steps out, screaming Masamune's name, then grabs his shirt and demands that he tell her what he did to Neko. At first, Masamune nonchalantly says she might have just left, but when Shido tells him that Neko is missing and has left her seizure medication behind, he finally realizes how foolish he was for not figuring out that she was terminally ill. As his mind races, Shido tells him that she knows he came over to Neko's apartment the previous night, which shocks everyone, then demands to know what he did to make her run away. When Masamune tells her that he turned Neko down and chose Aki instead, the entire scenery falls into an awkward silence. Seconds later, Aki springs into action, ignoring Masamune's confession, and asks Shido if they can track Neko using her transmitter. When Shido tells her that Neko left without her phone and wallet, Aki urges her to drive Aki, Shuri, Futaba, and Yoshino close to Neheko's apartment building so they can start the search from there, leaving Masamune behind to face the consequences of his stupidity. Soon after, Aki, Yoshino, and the other two search the entire city for the lovesick girl, while Masamune searches the suburbs on his own. After doing this for hours on end without finding her, Masamune gets to their school, which is the only place they haven't checked yet, and surprisingly finds Aki there as well. At first, he figures he's hallucinating, but after hearing Aki talk, he realizes she had the same idea he just did. After some small talk, Masamune asks Aki why she is going above and beyond to find Neko when she does not really like her that much. In response, Aki tells him she just feels bad for her since Masamune rejected her, as she knows how badly it hurts to have someone you like turn their back on you. Hearing this, Masamune gets seriously pissed because she's acting like a victim, when she's still the same chick who gives any guy who tries to get close to her awful nicknames and tosses them aside like they're not supposed to have feelings. In his rage, he recalls the moment he was harshly rejected by her 8 years ago and sternly asks her if she remembers the nickname, Pig's Foot. At first, Aki stares at him, as if that was the first time she was hearing the name, but just as she's about to speak, a paper airplane hits Masamune's head, causing him to look up and realize that Neko must be throwing them down from the roof. With time running out, he runs up to the roof, spots Neko looking weak and dizzy, happy that he's there, and scolds her quite heavily for endangering herself. Following that, Neko collapses in his arms, and Masamune immediately has Aki, who shows up, calls Shido and an ambulance. A few hours later, Shido meets with Masamune and his buddies at the hospital lobby and tells them that Neko's condition is finally stable. While they heave sighs of relief, she tells Aki that Neko wants to see her alone and urges her to make it quick, so she can rest. As Aki walks into Neko's hospital ward, Masamune is sitting nearby, feeling restless and uneasy, as he's worried that he made a mistake choosing Aki over Neko, all for revenge. As his brain spirals in confusion, Aki returns from her discussion with Neko and tells him that she wants to speak with him next. Despite being scared, Masamune walks into the room and presents himself to Neko. Without wasting any time, Neko takes him on a trip down memory lane to explain her unfortunate life, so we can understand why she did what she did. Apparently, Neko had always been born a frail person who had to rely on countless treatments and drugs to keep her on her feet. One night, her grandfather approached her with a proposition for her to do a surgery overseas so that her condition could improve a little bit. However, before accepting his proposition, Neko begged him to let her fall in love, and he agreed. Upon hearing her story, Masamune asks her why she chose to be with him. And Neko says she just randomly picked him from the mountain of photos she had for potential suitors. Shocked, Masamune crashes out validly that his plan for revenge was almost put on hold for her whimsical choice of partner. However, given her current situation, he lets her off the hook and asks her how she felt trying this love thing. In response, Neko tells him she had fun figuring out that they are both birds of the same feather. Confused, Masamune asks what she means by that, and she says that, just like her, he talks about love and affection for the sake of his goal when, in reality, the truth is hidden in fog and will eventually come out the same way hers did. As Masamune remains silent, Neko admits she has no regrets, as she was able to experience the full package of love, heartbreak, and making things right firsthand. With that said, she asks if he will continue down the same path, but Masamune is left speechless. Noticing the worried look on his face, Neko decides not to press him further, so she thanks him for all the memories they shared during their short time together and ends their meeting. Afterwards, Masamune walks out of Neko's room, looking down, ignores Aki when she tries to talk to him, and leaves the hospital without uttering a single word. Later that night, as he crosses the road, Masamune thinks back to what Neko told him about them being birds of the same feathers, as well as her lies being discovered, and fears that if Aki were to find out about his revenge plan against her in the long run, she would hate him forever. Thankfully, before he starts simping over Aki again, he corrects his logic-resistant brain and reminds himself to stay true to his revenge plan of making Aki fall for him, and then dramatically dumping her. Around that same time, Aki visits her mansion's garden to get some air and recalls her meeting with Neko. Apparently, Neko called her in to admit defeat and urged her to give Masamune, whom she calls a sincere but stupid person, a chance to love her. Despite knowing that Neko is right, the stuck-up jerk still refuses to accept that she's falling for Masamune. Instead, she recalls those wonderful moments she spent with the chubby and cute little Masamune and refers to those times as true love. Meanwhile, Masamune packs his bags and tells Kinwei and Chinatsu that he's going out to the mountains to retrain his body and mind back to the right path so that he won't stray off his plan again. Around that same time, Aki, still in the garden, is approached by a weird Teletubby lookalike with the same chubby features as her Masamune, and upon seeing him, she mistakes him for him. However, rather than correcting her, this fat fraud plays along with her narrative and even returns to the mansion entrance with a letter he claims his grandfather wrote for Aki's father. There, he has Yoshino's father, the head butler of the entire mansion, read the contents of the letter in front of all the maids. When he does, Yoshino's father discovers that Aki's grandfather had actually betrothed the Fatso, whose real name is Gasu, to Aki when they were much younger. This news takes the entire house by shock, but while they struggle to verify the authenticity of the letter, Masamune finishes his 500th push-up just in time to see the sun rise. After doing his goofy, happy dance, he returns to the city to prepare for the first day of his second term at school. Hours later, as Aki and Yoshino arrive at their school, a Babe Ruth wannabe shows up, looking all shiny and tries to riz Aki up. Unimpressed, Aki writes an embarrassing message on his shirt and leaves the poor guy desperately begging for his dignity back. Moments later, two of Aki's underlings, Kikune and Sonoka, who also happen to be man-hating feminists just like Aki, meet up and sing Aki's praises for rejecting that idiot the way she did. While they goof around, Aki shows up to talk to them, but before she can even get a word out, they glaze her honeypot her to infinity and beyond for keeping BuzzFeed alive with her cruel, soul-crushing rejections. Before long, the final member of their SJW group, Mari, shows up and accuses Aki of spending more time with Masamune, a boy, than with them lately. Flustered, Aki tries to deny the allegations at first, but Mari pulls up proof, leaving Aki speechless. Luckily for Aki, before the others skin her alive, Gaso shows up and escorts Aki to class, leaving the three musketeers of Man-Death freaking out in extreme shock and disbelief. Meanwhile, Masamune strides into class, feeling pumped and well-toned like a new man. However, when he gets to class and spots Neko there, he drags her outside to question her. At first, he asks how her overseas surgery went, and Neko says it went so well that the doctor cleared her the previous night, so she could attend school that morning. Moving on from that, she asks Masamune if he's already gotten closer to Aki in the 1 month she was gone. and Masamune indirectly tells her that he didn't because he was training the entire time. Pissed, Neko scolds him a little bit, but when she spots Aki moving with Fat Gaso on the sidewalk outside the window, she tells Masamune to hurry up so he doesn't steal Aki from him. Later that day, after classes, Masamune waltzes into Aki's class to give her a special gift he brought her from training in the countryside. However, when he spots Gaso talking to Aki casually, he freaks out and demands an introduction. Without hesitation, Gaso introduces himself as Gaso, but mentions that he used to be nicknamed Masamune, and a confused Masamune asks Gaso to define his relationship with Aki. When Gaso proudly tells Masamune that he's Aki's betrothed, Masamune's world goes upside down, as he grabs Yoshino, hurls her down to the gym storage room, and demands an explanation for this inconvenient development. Yoshino, who's just as confused as he is, tells him that she ran a signature analysis and found out that the letter Gaso brought with him is actually real, which is why he now stays as a guest at the mansion. Hearing this, Masamune freaks out and starts spiraling into oblivion like he usually does when he's confused. While he's at it, Yoshino also adds that Aki's been acting like she's in love with the guy ever since he came by. Upon hearing this, Masamune leaves the gym and spies on Gaso for the rest of the day, only to find out that the guy's actually pretty good at sports, math, and winning people over. Later that evening, poor Masamune crashes out in the park with Yoshino there, as he finds it pretty hard to understand why Aki is falling in love with that trash dumpster of a human. At one point, Yoshino gets very sad and starts apologizing for causing all this, but Masamune gets a little weirded out because he knows that Aki's stupid decisions aren't her fault. Around that same time, Mari joins Sonoka and Kikune at a diner to hang out and discuss Aki's new man, Gasu. While they're at it, Gasu shows up with a food tray and asks if they'll allow him to sit with them. Naturally, the trio tries to chase him away, but Gaso calms them down and assures them that he wants to tell them something very important about his relationship with Aki. The following day, Futaba gathers everyone in class for an important announcement and tells them she plans to stage a live drama remake of Snow White, casting Shuri, the zestiest dude in their class, as Snow White and Masamune as the prince, all for their class's upcoming Yasaka Festival project. Afterwards, Masamune grabs Aki in the hallway, pins her to the wall, and stares into her eyes to talk to her. However, before he can get a word out, Aki tells him his zipper is down and walks away while he is distracted. As Masamune tries to catch up to her, Gaso shows up and steals her away yet again, leaving him speechless. While he loses it, Mari, Sonoka, and Kikune, who have been spying the entire time, recall what Gaso told them during their meeting about his plan to simp excessively for Aki, so she can maintain her purity. Since the girls are fools, they believe him and make Masamune the enemy they have to eliminate to protect Aki. Later that day, the student council office arranged a meeting to discuss the class requests for the Osaka Festival. After sifting through a few random requests, Sonoka, who happens to be the vice president of the student council, reviews the requests of classes 2A and 2B, which are Aki and Masamune's classes, respectively, and finds out that they plan to play the same Snow White drama. Even though Masamune's class, Class B, turned in their proposal first, Sonoka rejected it and had Aki's class do the Snow White play, all thanks to favoritism. Later on, when Futaba learns the news, she storms toward Aki's class, with Masamune following her, finds Mari at the entrance, and argues that her class should be the one to do the play instead. After some back and forth, Aki shows up and takes up the argument with Futaba, until that pesky scumbag, Gaso, also arrives to play good cop, bad cop. Irritated, Masamune decides to spice things up by proposing that both classes perform the play and let the audience vote for the best performance. When the girls agree to this brilliant plan, he pulls Gaso aside and challenges him to another competition. Whoever gets the most votes earns the right to dance with Aki at the post-festival party, and Gaso agrees. A few days later, Futaba arranges a last-minute practice session with Shuri and a bunch of other cast members for their Snow White play, seeing as the festival is happening the next day. Since Shuri clearly is not a girl, he performs poorly as Snow White, and this gets Futaba so pissed that she trash-talks him for being a trash actor. At this, Shuri tries his best to put on his cute, girly act, since he is the only femboy in their class. However, when Futaba continues hurling insults at him, he breaks down and runs off the stage to cool off outside the building. On the way, he runs into Neko, who just finished designing their costumes and was taking them back to the gym. He has a brief conversation with her and ends up falling for her as she walks away. Meanwhile, Masamune runs into Gasu while searching for Shuri and tries to fat-shame him. Unfortunately for him, Gaso is the body positivity final boss, so he ignores Masamune's snide remarks, tells him all about his cute moments with Aki, and leaves Masamune pissed. Later that evening, as Gasu and Aki stroll back home after school, Aki spots a food cart and rushes over there to get them some snacks. While she's away, Gasu reflects a little on his sneaky plan and reveals that he's actually a fraud. Apparently, Gasu's family used to be rich like Aki's family, but one thing led to another, and now they're brokies like you. With no allies left to turn to, Gasu's parents had him impersonate Aki's chubby little Masamune, since he looks oddly similar in stature to the little guy, and infiltrate Aki's family, so he can milk some money off them. Granted, Gasu doesn't know yet that Masamune is actually Aki's real Masamune from back then, so he doesn't pay him any attention since his plans are progressing. Later that night, Masamune catches a bad cold while working out in his room without any clothes on. When Chinatsu, who is right beside him, hears him sneezing, she immediately rats him out to Kinwei, who upon hearing this, rushes in and covers Masamune in a blanket. The following day, the Osaka festival begins at Masamune's school, with the atmosphere filled with cheerful murmurs and chatter from excited students. At around 10 a.m., Sonoka gathers a bunch of students in the gym and gives an opening speech as the vice president to officially kickstart the festival. While she's at it, Masamune sneezes his butts off and assures Futaba and Shuri, who are both concerned, that he's doing okay. Seconds later, Sonoka ends her speech, so Masamune tries to leave the gym to take a nap somewhere quiet. Just then, Neko grabs his arm from behind and quietly leads him to the nurse's office to get a proper nap. After tucking the loser in bed, Neko leaves the room to get them some warm drinks at one of the stalls outside, without realizing that they're being stalked by Kikune, one of Aki's brain-dead bodyguards. Meanwhile, Gaso accidentally walks into the ladies' changing room to get changed for the show. After a brief and awkward silence, the ladies throw him out. While he tries to figure out where he can go next, a mysterious person, cosplaying as the old lady selling apples in Snow White, shows up and leads him to a free room he can change in. Meanwhile, Shuri runs into Neko in the festival's market as she purchases some warm drinks for herself and Masamune. Since he now has a little crush on her, poor bro tries his best to be manly, and even offers to help Neko carry her drinks, claiming he's trying to be a manly man, but this backfires really hard on him. Eventually, Neko lets him carry her drinks and follow her back to the nurse's office, but unfortunately, when they get there, they realize that Masamune has been abducted and immediately rush over to Futaba to tell her the bad news. Meanwhile, Masamune wakes up covered in a blanket, locked in a small, dark room, and screams for help. Before long, Kikune shows up and warns him to keep it down or get his butt whooped by a girl. Meanwhile, Futaba, Neko, and Shu researched the whole school for him, but all they could find were countless Class A students littered everywhere, which sounded very weird to them. As they process their findings, Mari calls Kikune to check in on things at her end. After hearing Kikune give Mari the all-clear signal, Masamune asks Kikune what they plan to do to him, but Kikune says they'll just have him stay put there until Aki and Gaso finish their play, so they can win by default. At this, Masamune figures out the dirty move Class A is trying to pull on him and gets really pissed at them for it. Immediately after hanging up the phone, Mari walks outside the class, proud of her ingenuity, only to find out from Aki and a few other students that Gaso's also nowhere to be found. However, as the entire class scours the school for him, Yoshino sneaks out, reveals that she was the old lady cosplayer from earlier, and tries to report her plan to Masamune, only to realize he is also missing. Around that same time, Kikune gets fed up with Masamune's fake sickly cries, so she shuts him up, claiming she's one of Aki's bodyguards and that she's an active kendo practitioner who can whoop his butt. Hearing this and several other nonsense Kikune had to say, Masamune realizes that she's much dumber than him, so he manipulates her into feeling bad for him and makes her untie him. Following this, she receives a call from Ari, who asks to speak to Masamune, and hands him the phone. Once Masamune is on, Mari introduces herself, tells him that Gaso's also been taken hostage, and urges him to release Gaso. At first, Masamune is confused because he obviously didn't plan this, but when he thinks back and realizes that Yoshino must have been behind everything, he plays dumb and tells Mari to go F herself. After the call, Mari crashes out really badly, but just then, Aki approaches her and tells her not to cancel the play yet, because she plans to do the play without him. After accepting Aki's wishes, Mari texts Kikune, who's busy freaking out, to leave Masamune and focus on finding Gaso. When Kikune reads the message, she gets super pissed at Masamune for some reason and attacks him with her stick sword. Scared for his life, Masamune opens the room window, realizes they're on the second floor, and swiftly hangs from the windowsill from the outside. Blinded by rage, Kikune jumps out the window to follow him, only for her to fall into the water below. Moments later, Masamune meets with Shuri and Futaba, explains everything to them, including Gaso's disappearance, and tells them that Aki's team will surely withdraw from the competition. Just then, Futaba and Shuri tell him that they've already started their play, causing Masamune to panic and run straight to the gym. Getting there, he spots Aki and her fellow cast members putting on the show of the century and is shocked by how organized it is. While he gazes at Aki on the stage, Neko joins him to watch and asks if he thinks their class can win. As Masamune responds, telling her that they don't stand a chance, Mari walks up to them and asks Masamune if he likes the show. Rather than responding to her stupid question, Masamune learns that Gaso is still missing and asks why they're still letting the show go on, even when the prince is absent. When Mari explains that it was because Aki wanted it to continue, Masamune is left speechless. After screaming at him a few more times, Mari turns and leaves. Masamune tries to follow her, but his fever worsens and stops him from moving too much. Soon after, Masamune regains some of his strength and tries to find Yoshino so they can let Gaso out of his temporary prison, only for him to spot her on stage, playing one of the 7 dwarves. Devastated, Masamune gets desperate to give this impressive work of art the happy ending it deserves. After ransacking his brain cells for a solution, he finally figures one out and enlists Neko's help to make it happen. Shortly after, Masamune gets himself backstage, where he meets Mari and the rest of the cast and tells them, while desperately struggling to stay on his feet, that they let him play the prince in Gaso's stead. At first, Mari doesn't allow him, but when Masamune assures her that he's only trying to save the play to preserve the art, she ultimately lets him do the part. By the time the play gets to Snow White's death, Aki gives up on Gaso and recalls the moment her little self found Masamune's flower bouquet the next day after he confessed his feelings, and waited for days just for him to come play with her. Since he never really showed up back then, Aki figures history was about to repeat itself and slowly accepts a tragic end. However, at the last minute, Masamune suddenly pops out from the backstage, dressed as the prince and doing his best to keep his focus, so he can deliver his lines and end the play. After making a declaration of his arrival to the audience, he speaks to the elves surrounding Snow White's coffin in code, desperately hoping they catch on and play along. Thankfully, they do and urge him to come deliver the final kiss to his princess. However, after taking just 2 steps towards the coffin, Masamune collapses from his fever, causing the dwarves to rush over to help him up. In due time, he gets up, waltzes towards the coffin, with Yoshino backing him up, and eventually plants the softest kiss on Aki's lips to end the play. As the whole gym erupts in applause and praise for the amazing show, Aki opens her eyes and realizes that she's actually kissing the dork she hates so much. Enraged, she punches her prince off her body right in front of everybody, but luckily for her, before the audience catches on to the disconnect, Yoshino and the other elves cover up for her. As the curtains fall, the next day, Sonoka, Kikune, Mari, Masamune, Yoshino, Aki, Gaso, Futaba, Shuri, and Neko all gather in a cramped karaoke bar to host their after-party for the festival. After a boring speech from Sonoka, she names Class A the winner of the competition and declares Masamune and Aki the best-lit actors of the event. Hearing this, Futaba whines, claiming the rankings are not fair, but Aki shuts her up and continues questioning Sonoka's judgment. Soon after, a brief silence follows, and then Sonoka suggests they settle things from the cultural festival with a song battle. Initially, Aki refuses to indulge in such flimsiness. However, when she learns that the losers get to pay the whole tab, she agrees to the deal. Before long, Futaba grabs the mic to go first and delivers an above-average performance. Seeing this, Aki grabs the mic to go next and gets a slightly higher score than Futaba. Over the next few minutes, they all take turns singing covers of their favorite songs and enjoying themselves while doing so. When it is Neko's turn, she chooses a breakup song and pours out the pain she still feels from being dumped by Masamune. After her, Yoshino goes next and picks a stoic song, which she sings fairly well. Around that same time, Shuri tries to make Masamune choose a song, as he's up next, but Masamune sneaks out of the room and tries to run away to avoid traumatizing everyone with his terrible voice. Unfortunately, before he pulls that off, Kikune and Sonoka block the exit and urge him to get back inside and wait for his turn. Left with no other choice, Masamune returns to the room and chills out till it's his turn to sing. Soon after, Neko chooses a popular duet theme song from a fairy tale cartoon and invites Aki to sing alongside her. When Aki accepts her invitation, the duo sings the song so beautifully that even Mari, the sadist amongst them, was left speechless. After their performance, Aki and Neko go back to being enemies and take their seats, making it Masamune's turn to sing. With nothing left to lose, Masamune picks his song, grabs the microphone, and delivers a performance so bad that the others had to call an ambulance for help. Following his horrible performance, they all leave to recover from Masamune's performance, while Masamune himself is left chilling out with Aki on a random outdoor bench. After some small talk, Aki asks him why he stayed behind to hang out with her, and the cornball tells her that it's because it's very dangerous for a girl of her stature to be out there by herself at that hour. This catches Aki so off guard that she immediately stutters, as she's at a loss for words. Noticing this, Masamune reminds her of all the moments he's saved her butt from getting kidnapped or even injured, and confronts her for not even appreciating him risking his life to help her. At this, Aki goes on a 5-second rant about how he always does what he wants. Then she shuts up and sheepishly asks what he wants her to do to properly thank him for his help. Almost instantly, Masamune tells her to kiss him this time around, and although Aki is shocked to hear this, she agrees to do it. Within the next few seconds, she inches dangerous close to him. But just as she's about to kiss him, she changes her mind and stuffs a hot potato in his mouth. When Masamune realizes this, he freaks out a little, but Aki condemns him and leaves Yoshino, who tells him just how stupid he was for not going in for the kiss. This brings us to the end of the video. What do you think happens next for Masamune and Aki? Do you think he'll still go on with his revenge plan? Or will he finally grow a pair and date Aki instead? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want more anime recaps like these, watch this video instead.